Great. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tess Harris. I'm the Staff Hearing Officer for today's meeting. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 9 o'clock for the November 12th Staff Hearing Officer meeting. And then I'm going to start out. If there are any members of the public that wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, I will open it up for public comment in the room. Anyone wish to speak? I don't see any movement. Ms. Gu, do you have anybody online that would like to speak on an item not on the agenda today?
Upon checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands or attendees. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So now I'm going to move into item 1, preliminary matters. That's requests, and then we'll go into announcements on appeals and comments. I do not have any requests for continuances or withdrawals or postponements of any of the agenda items. Going into item B, announcements and appeals, I do have an announcement. The Planning Commission did there is an appeal hearing at the Planning Commission regarding a previously approved coastal development permit. It was the Staff Hearing Officer item 2D for 3139 Seacliff, and that was the Staff Hearing Officer meeting of October 15th. It is tentatively scheduled on the Planning Commission for a Planning Commission hearing on Thursday, December 18th, 2025 at the City Hall chambers. And so for any hearing times or additional information, members of the public and interested parties should refer to the posted Planning Commission agenda when it becomes available about a week prior. Moving on to item C, comments from members of the public pertaining to items not on the agenda. We did go through that, so we don't have any public comments. Took that a bit out of order. So now we will move into the items on the agenda. So we'll start out with item 2A for 1428 Harbor View Drive. It's for an open yard modification. And I will go ahead and read the item into the record, and then I'll pass it off to staff to do a staff presentation and the applicant if they would like to do any additional presentation before making my decision. So the 5,454 square foot site is currently developed with a single-story, single-unit residence and detached one-car garage. The project consists of a 289 square foot one-story addition and exterior 220 square foot deck. The discretionary application required at this hearing under the purview of the Staff Hearing Officer is an open yard modification to allow a one-story residential addition and a deck at the rear of the residence, thereby reducing the open yard below the required 1,250 square feet. And then the project qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review under section 15301 of CEQA, which is the existing facilities section. So now I will pass it off to Ms. Fennessy for a staff presentation.
Thank you. Jillian Fennessy. Oh, sorry.
And apologies, Ms. Gu, if you could move this, yes, thank you. Perfect.
Thank you. Jillian Fennessy, Assistant Planner, and I'm going to be presenting the project at 1428 Harborview Drive. As Tess mentioned, it is a 5,454 square foot lot developed with a single-story, single-family residence and detached one-car garage. The lot is zoned E3, is in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. The adjacent land uses are all residential. It has a 20-foot front setback and 6-foot interior setbacks, and I pulled up the aerial so you can see it on a map. And then I'll just go to the site plan. The proposed site plan. And so the project involves a 289 square foot one-story addition and a 220 square foot exterior deck, and that is in the rear right here in the shaded area, and then the addition's in the shaded, and the deck is right here. The proposed addition would eliminate the existing conforming open yard, as it would reduce the yard's dimensions below the required minimum, which is 20 by 20 feet. Therefore, the applicant is requesting an open yard modification to allow the reduction in conforming open yard area. Just for some background on open yard areas, they are intended to promote desirable living conditions, provide a sense of openness in residential developments, and ensure adequate space for outdoor living and recreation. For lots under 6,000 square feet with a slope of less than 20%, like this lot, the requirement is 1,250 square feet of open yard, and it may be provided in one or multiple areas. And up to 850 square feet of open yard may be provided in the remaining front yard. Also, each open yard area must be at least 20 by 20 feet measured perpendicularly. And then I'm going to show the proposed open yard so we can see it better. So the project design continues to provide 1,250 square feet of usable open yard area. However, as I said, due to the addition and the lot's irregular shape, the dimensions of the open yard area will be less than the required minimum 20 by 20 feet. The proposed dimensions measure at least 17 feet in length in the rear yard and 16 feet in the front yard. And you can kind of see these, lengths and dimensions, and how the lot is irregularly shaped. Because the project still offers 1,250 square feet of usable open yard area, staff supports the requested modification. However, staff recommends including the condition of approval requiring that 850 square feet of open yard will be located in the rear of the property and 400 square feet will be located in the front yard outside the setback. These areas shall be dimensioned and clearly designated on the plans at the time of building permit submittal. With the recommended condition, staff believes that the required findings for the open yard modification can be made, specifically that it's consistent with the general purposes of the zoning district in which the property is located. It prevents unreasonable hardship due to the lot's irregular configuration, which limits the open yard areas. And although the project's 1,250 square feet of functional open yard does not meet the required minimum dimensions, which are at least 20 by 20 feet, it provides adequate outdoor space consistent with the intent of the open yard requirements. And just to get a better idea of the site and the project, I'll show some elevations and photos. So here is the front yard of the project. So it is pretty open. And then here is the rear yard. This is a as-built deck, so that is basically where the addition is going to be placed. Another picture of the rear yard, and then just some elevations, proposed elevations. So here is the north elevation. Here is the west elevation, so the front yard. Nothing's changing really there. It's just the rear yard, so with the addition. So here's the addition in the rear yard with the deck. And the south elevations where you can see the addition over in this area. And I am here for any questions. Also, the applicant, Michael Brown, is here, as well as the owners.
Great, thank you very much, Ms. Fennessy. Would the applicant like to add anything additional?
Well, a few points might be helpful. Thank you for doing that. Mike Brown here, architect for the owners. I think the exceptional circumstance is just the oddly shaped lot, and it's a result of a 1923 lot split. The house is already small. It was built in 1926 by, those typical standards. So it's just the irregular shape just makes everything very restrictive. We used the existing foundation, which was permitted in 1999 for the master bedroom, sort of a wing, if you will. But that cuts us down to kind of an 18-foot space, or 17 and a half, between the garage and that foundation. So we can't get 20 feet usable under the ordinance in there. But there's plenty of open area, as shown in that exhibit. We don't think this is detrimental to the public. I think there are a lot of yards in that neighborhood that are very similarly restricted and don't have the kind of open yard space that would normally be required by the ordinance. And the benefit is to allow direct access. As you can see, we've added on from the dining room there, that little strip that connects the bath and the bedroom, so that there's direct access from the living sort of space to the outdoors. And that's a lot of the reason for this. I think that probably covers it without going into too much detail.
Great, thank you very much. I'll go into questions and then make my decision. Before I do that, I'll open it up for public comment on this item. If anybody in the room wishes to speak on this item, please come up to the podium. All right, seeing no movement. Ms. Gu, is there anybody online that would like to speak on item 2A?
Upon checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands for this particular item. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Gu. Sort of a couple different comments, questions that I'll just ask at the same time. Ms. Fennessy, in the staff report, there was some mention about the addition that was approved in 1999. Could you just give a little bit of an overview for the public on what that was and what's existing today and how that's relevant?
Yeah, so in 1999, the staff hearing officer approved an addition that was similar to this addition but smaller, and they also got an open yard modification at that time. However, the building permit was issued and work commenced. However, the addition was never built, and so that deck is as built because there was no inspections, and it wasn't an addition. So that's kind of the background on that, which is kind of gives us a little bit of grounds for support because at some point, an open yard modification was granted, so that helped with staff support.
Great, thank you. And then the as-built deck, was that constructed where the additions are going to be located? Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. I think the deck is actually on a foundation. Is that correct? Yeah.
It's basically the same footprint as the bedroom.
Okay,
Yeah.
Almost
great,
exactly.
great.
And that was all, yeah.
Okay, great. And then, Ms. Fennessy, does this project require a design review at all?
It does not.
Okay, great. Okay, those are all of my questions. I have one additional question for the applicant. I just wanted to make sure that the applicant had seen the condition of approval that was recommended by staff, requiring the 850 square feet of open yard located in the rear and the 400 square feet in the front. I know you've already dimensioned the plans to show that, but just wanted to make sure that that's clear for the record.
We're aware. Yeah,
Great.
We exceeded as well.
Yes, great. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and make the findings and approve the project. I will find that the project does qualify for an exemption under environmental review under section 15301, which is the existing facilities of CEQA. That section allows for additions of existing structures, and this project complies with all of the conditions of section 15301, that exemption. And then I will make the finding for the open yard modification. First, as mentioned and as clearly visible, the site is an irregular shaped lot. I'm familiar with the site. I visited the area just to get a sense for the project. And I think it's still, since it still meets the 1,250 square foot open yard, while it's not meeting the exact dimensions, the actual space is still there in the front and in the rear. And with the condition, I feel very comfortable about making this modification. I think it's a reasonable modification to make to allow for a little bit more living space. It's a modest structure, and to be able to get a little bit more, along with just the recognition that there was already an open yard modification that was approved in 1999. I recognize this is a bit different and a bit more, but that also substantiates my finding there. So the modification's consistent with the purposes of the residential zoning district. It prevents an unreasonable hardship due to the irregular shaped lot. which limits conforming open yard area. And so with that, I will, subject to the condition that's mentioned in the staff report about the open yard modification, I will approve the project. My decision can be appealed to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days of the approval. In addition, a member of the Planning Commission can suspend my decision if they like, also within 10 calendar days of the decision. So with that, I wish you the best and wish the owners the best in their work towards completing the project. And thank you, Ms. Fennessy, for the staff report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. We will now move on to item 2B for 405 West Sola Street. Mr. Stolberg, welcome. Good morning. So I'm going to go ahead and read the project description into the record, and then I will pass it off to staff if they'd like to make a presentation, and then if there is an applicant present that would like to speak, they're welcome to do so. So the 4,603 square foot site is currently developed with a 960 square foot primary residence and a 280 square foot detached accessory building. The project consists of the conversion of a garage to an accessory dwelling unit and the permitting of as-built work. The scope of work includes permitting exterior changes to the accessory structure, 16 square feet of as-built additions, exterior changes to the accessory structure, and permitting as-built changes in the backyard. The discretionary application required at this hearing under the purview of the Staff Hearing Officer is an interior setback modification to allow as-built additions of a proposed ADU to encroach into the interior setback. The project is exempt from further environmental review under Section 15303, which is the new construction or conversion of small structures of CEQA. And then no significant project-specific or cumulative environmental impacts are expected because of the project. The project does not have the potential to damage scenic highways or historic resources. The project's not identified as a hazardous waste site, and those are categorical exceptions, so none of those apply. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Stolberg to provide the staff presentation.
Thank you for the introduction and good morning. Aaron Stolberg, Assistant Planner with Community Development. Here we have the project site for the proposed interior setback modification at 405 West Sola Street. It is located in the RMH zone between downtown to the northeast and Highway 101 to the southwest. From this angle as well, you can see from the street the primary residence as well as a bit of the accessory structure in the rear of the lot. On the right of this slide, you can see the site plans from the most recently approved permit, which is from 2002. The project site consists of a single-story primary residence and the accessory structure in that corner lot there. Before this 2002 permit, the accessory structure was an unpermitted detached garage. In 2002, they got a permit for a demo rebuild of the garage over the same footprint as before, which was 2 feet away from both the side and rear interior setbacks, encroaching 4 feet into the required 6 feet setback from the RMH zone. In addition to the side of the garage was located outside of the setbacks and was permitted as well. And on the left side of the screen where you can see what is labeled as e-storage, that is where the additions that are being reviewed today are located. Here you can see the accessory structure in question on the eastern side of the site. 2 unpermitted additions to the accessory structure have been constructed, which encroach upon the interior setback. The applicant wants to convert this accessory structure, currently classified as a garage, into an ADU, but first needs to receive the interior setback modifications to allow this encroachment and allow the permitting of the ADU. This project was previously reviewed by the Single Family Design Board at the consent level once already. SFDB stated that the board is in support of the project which provides additional housing, and that the size and scale of the project is reasonable and not visible from the street or for neighbors. Here's a closer look at the accessory structure. The two additions in question today are on the bottom of the red box. There is an addition to the interior closet space for a total of 8 square feet. And above that is an addition of a shed, which is attached to the structure itself, as well for a total of 8 square feet. In the RMH zone, accessory structures have the setback requirements of 6 feet, but for ADUs, it's 4 feet. The dashed line that bisects the red box there shows the 4-foot setback. So in total for these additions, it's only 8 square feet of space, which encroaches upon that 4-foot setback. Here we have the two elevations, the north and the east, which you're able to see the addition. On the left, the north elevation, the addition is indicated by the dashed line towards the center of the structure there. And on the right, you're able to see the front or the access door for the shed on the outside of the structure. Both of these additions were built with the same styling of the accessory structure and the primary structure as well. Here we have some exterior photos of the addition itself. As you can see, the addition fits with the styling of the existing accessory structure. It is also in line with the existing shape of the accessory structure and does not encroach into the setbacks any more than the accessory structure was already permitted to do. Here are just some more images from within the lot to get a better view of the accessory structure. The view on the left is what would be pointing towards the street. So the additions are on the rear of that, and as you can see, are not visible from the street itself. And then finally, just some more photos again from the street. The accessory structure is in the rear of the lot. The additions cannot be seen from the street, and it does not have any significant impact on the neighbors due to the size and scale of it. Because of this, and because of the interior setback, modification is consistent with the general purposes of the RMH zone and is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot for the ADU. Staff recommends that the staff hearing officer approves of the interior setback modification, making the findings in the staff report. And I believe the applicant might be in the audience as well today.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Stolberg. Is the applicant in the audience, and if so, would they like to speak on the item at all? No? Okay.
I believe so.
All right, so with that, I will open it up for public comment. If there are any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, please come up to the podium. I'm not seeing any movement in the room. Ms. Gu, are there any members of the public online that would like to speak on the item?
Upon checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands for this particular item. Thank you.
Okay, great. So with that, I will turn it over. Just a couple questions, Mr. Stolberg. Really excellent staff presentation, so thank you for that. You answered pretty much all of my questions. Before I get into it, I have visited the site. I went by earlier this week to get a better understanding of what the site looks like. I will say it's certainly an improvement in the neighborhood, and they've done a really excellent job maintaining the character of the structure. And I think overall it's not of concern and not able to see it from the street, as you mentioned. So that is something that I can confirm. I wanted to just check to see if there had been any concerns from the neighbor, particularly the one closest to the addition, if they had any comments about that addition.
Yeah, so the neighbors as well, we've received 3 letters of support from the neighbors, including that neighbor. They also have a rear shed that's very close to the rear setback. But we've gotten letters of support.
Okay, great. That's really excellent to hear. Well, with that, I will say that unpermitted changes are never great to have forward, and we would much prefer an applicant to be coming in from the beginning. we typically do support the conversion of structures into housing as it's a necessary, or it's a real priority for the city, for city council, and for the community at large. So I have no concerns about the accessory structure becoming an accessory dwelling unit and the as-built additions to the structure, but I would request in the future, and for anybody watching, that you really come in to get a permit rather than having to go through the enforcement action process, which just takes significantly more time. So with that, I will go ahead and make the findings. First, the finding for environmental review, that the project is exempt under Section 15303 for new construction or the conversion of small structures of the California Environmental Quality Act, which allows the conversion of the accessory structure to an ADU in a residential zone and also allows for other minor additions and alterations as this project includes. And then I will make the finding for the interior setback modification. It's a very minor modification, allowing that additional closet space in that shed area. And that modification is consistent with the general purposes of the residential zoning district in which the project is located and necessary to secure the ADU improvement on the lot. I will note also that, having neighborhood support is, it doesn't always happen and is a really great thing. And I think recognizing that this neighborhood, has a variety of different accessory dwelling units and garage or shed structures. And so this is very, very in line with the neighborhood and a real asset to the street. The encroachment aligns with the existing non-conforming accessory structure. It poses minimal impact on the neighboring property. It's not visible from the addition is not visible from the road itself. So generally consistent with the patterns of development for the neighborhood. And with that, again, I'll go ahead and approve the project. My decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days of the decision. And then any member of the Planning Commission may suspend my decision also within 10 calendar days of my decision. There's information if you'd like to file an appeal on the slide. And with that, thank you again, Mr. Stolberg, and thank you to the applicant for coming in and getting a permit for this project. Okay, we will now transition over to item 2C for 529 De La Vina Street. It is for an interior setback modification. I'll start by reading the item into the record, and then I'll turn it over to staff to Ms. Brodesson so she can provide a staff presentation, and then if the applicant would like to speak, they're welcome to do so at that time. So item 2C, 529 De La Vina Street, it's for an interior setback modification. The 2,800 square foot lot is developed with a 857 square foot one-story residence. The proposed project consists of remodeling the existing residence, a deck in the rear yard, and a request to provide 2 uncovered parking spaces in the existing driveway. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer at this hearing are an interior setback modification to allow 2 uncovered tandem parking spaces to be located in the driveway, encroaching into the southeasterly interior setback, and determine that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA Section 15301, which is for existing facilities. Section 15301 allows repair, maintenance, and minor alterations to existing public or private structures. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Brodesson.
Good morning, Ms. Harris. Thank you for the introduction and for reading the project description. My name is Kelly Brodesson with Community Development, and for this project at 529 De La Vina, you can see here the location of the site is on Lower De La Vina, just northeast of Bath Street on the Lower East Side, or kind of, no, sorry, not the Lower East Side, the west, kind of the west. What is that neighborhood anyways on De La Vina? I'm not sure. Downtown neighborhood, yeah. Let's see. And here's an aerial view of the house. You can see the narrow driveway here. And then here's a view of the front of the structure and the driveway to the left, and just to give you an orientation of the project site. So the parking requirement for single-family residents in this zone, the RM zone, is 2 covered spaces. The subject property was non-conforming to parking with a 1-car carport located in the southeast rear corner of the property. City records show that at some point the carport was demolished on site and parking was not replaced. Required parking cannot be removed without replacing it somewhere on site. However, the driveway remains on the project site. Effective January 1st, 2023, Assembly Bill 2097 was approved, exempting residential properties from parking requirements if they're in 1/2 mile of a defined public transit, of which this project site is within 1/2 mile of 2, the bus station and the Greyhound, or the train station. However, the municipal code also says that any driveways shall serve approved parking areas or loading areas, and if no replacement parking is proposed on site, the driveway is no longer necessary to serve a parking, and therefore the paving and the driveway curb cut should all be removed. In this neighborhood, the parking is impacted along De La Vina Street, and the applicants have historically been parking in the driveway. So they have decided to propose to keep 2 legal spots in the driveway. And you can see here from this site that the location of the 2 parking spots. Let's see. The parking spaces encroach into the 6-foot interior setback since the driveway is only 9 foot 4 inches wide, and uncovered parking space is required to be 8 foot 6 inches wide. Alternate options were looked at to provide no parking on the site, or providing 1 or 2 covered spaces on the lot. But if no on-site parking is required, the demand for parking increases in the neighborhood, requiring 2 more on-street parking spots if we make them remove their driveway curb cut. So staff recommends that the staff hearing officer approve the modification to allow these 2 parking spots to encroach into the setback. This situation also prioritizes maintaining the non-conforming open yard on site, eliminates the need for more paving on site, and would prevent further constraints on street parking. Furthermore, the request is consistent with the city's effort to streamline design review processes by allowing uncovered parking, and Public Works Transportation is supportive of a parking design waiver to allow tandem. So, as I said, staff is supportive of the interior setback modification because it would be consistent with the purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance and is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot, and there would be no negative impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. So staff recommends that the staff hearing officer approve the setback modification and make the findings as listed in the staff report. The architect, Tom Oxner, is here. If he needs to make a presentation, he's here. And let me know if you have any.
Great, thank you very much. Would the applicant like to make any additional comments after staff's presentation?
I have no further comments.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so now we'll open it up for public comment. If anybody in the audience would like to speak, please come up to the podium for this item. I'm not seeing any movement. Ms. Gu, do you have any members online that would like to speak on item 2C?
Upon checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands for this particular item. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I'm very familiar with the site. I've passed by it often and passed by it as early as this morning or as late as this morning as well. Recognize that the site is in sort of need for a bit of an update and has some posting on the site as well. I wanted to just get a better, I know that the applicant is here for the interior setback modification for the parking spaces. A couple questions sort of with the overall structure. Is this going to be a new structure? Is it going to be a remodel? Kind of what does that look like?
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Is this a question for me or for?
Either.
Okay. We went through this with the applicant, and they have provided a demolition plan that shows that it is just a remodel of the existing structure, and please feel free to add to that if you'd like. Microphone's
Okay.
on.
Good morning. My name's Tom Oxner. Yes, we have a permit that's been issued for an interior remodel.
Okay.
And so it's retaining basically the interior floor plan. And so we're hoping to proceed with that soon. This permit that you're looking at also includes the replacement of the exterior windows like for like. So we're holding off on the initial portion of this project until this is included, so the work can be done all collectively. Just a little backstory, this project was split into 2 permits because when the initial project was submitted for a permit, it was identified that the complications of this parking situation would require a staff hearing officer, and therefore we decided to proceed with the interior work under the initial permit, which has been issued, and now we're waiting for. And the reason the windows were pulled out of that initial submittal was because the windows required a minor zoning review, and so that's also under the scope of work that you're looking at right here. So what we're looking at right here in terms of scope of work is the modification for these 2 parking spaces and the windows to be replaced, as well as the rear deck, which has been allowed within the open yard considerations.
Great, thank you very much. So a couple questions, Ms. Brodesson. For the replacement of the windows like for like, is there a need for any additional items under the staff hearing officer for that replacement, or will that be done at the staff level? Same with the rear deck.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. No, this project would have been exempt from design review except for the fact that it is not conforming to the setback, and changing a window in the setback requires a minor zoning exception. So that is reviewed by the design review board, and that has already received positive comments, which
Great. And I wanted to sort of ask the applicant, what was the applicant's preference, just given that you are in AB 2097? Was it the preference to maintain these spaces on the site, and that's why the request is here, or was there a preference to not have parking on the site at all?
Thank you. The preference was to actually have the option to provide on-street parking. It's difficult to park in that neighborhood, so that was our preference, yes. I mean, I'm sorry, yeah, off-street parking.
Off-street, okay, okay. Okay, great. So this project would then help with that. Okay. All right, well, I don't have any other questions for the project. I think this application will be a real benefit to the neighborhood and to the property owner as they move through the process and the building permit process. So I'll go ahead and I'll make the findings for approval of the project and find that the project qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review under section 15301, the existing facilities of CEQA. And then I will also make the finding for the interior setback modification, that it's consistent with the purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance, and it'll provide 2 parking spaces on the property. And so while it is resulting in a setback modification for the interior side, having those parking spaces off-site rather than on the street, while not required to have 2 spaces, is certainly a benefit, I think, not only for this property, but for the community in the immediate area. So those 2 tandem parking spaces would encroach into the 6-foot interior setback, again, not having any negative impacts on the neighborhood and necessary to ensure the appropriate improvement on the lot. So with that, I will approve the project. My approval is subject to an appeal. So if a member of the public would like to file an appeal, they may do so within 10 calendar days. And it can be appealed to the Planning Commission. Similarly, any member of the Planning Commission may suspend my decision within 10 calendar days as well. And the information on how to file appeal is on the slide. I wish the applicant all the best in the project, and thank you very much, and hope the rest of the work goes smoothly. And thank you, Ms. Brodesson, for the staff report.
Thank you.
With that, I will go ahead and close the staff hearing officer meeting for November 12th, 2025. Thank you.